Hello everyone, my name is Steven Jackson. It's approximately 11:40 p.m. on the 22nd of May, 2021, and I'm recording this video in my apartment because I want to get some things off my chest, particularly in regards to modern gaming. When I was a kid, I'm 32 years old now, so I remember the days when you had games like Doom and the old point-and-click adventure titles from LucasArts, and you had games that were made by people who had a vision, who had ideas, and who weren't afraid about experimenting, about trying new things. And they also, one important thing is that a lot of the people who made those games, they took the lessons they learned from previous titles and they use those to improve certain features in following titles. So they said, okay, people liked this in a certain feature in a game. How can we improve on that? Or if they didn't like it, how could they fix it? Or perhaps replace it with something better. And you had so many interesting game studios. You had Pandemic, you had Raven Software, you had Monolith, you had Westwood. You had all these different studios coming up with interesting ideas and concepts which then translated into fun, entertaining, engaging experiences. And it felt like they were being made by people who actually gave a shit about what they were making. These were people who had a vision and they had a commitment to that vision, and they weren't afraid to take risks. But at the same time, they also knew how to be realistic. Like, they knew that there were certain things that they could do, and then there were certain things that they wanted to do, but they knew they couldn't because the technology wasn't available, there wasn't enough money, there just wasn't enough time. So they understood their limits. They understood that there was a line that couldn't be crossed. And sometimes they said, you know what, let's take a shot. Let's just see what happens. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. And sometimes the risks that paid off, they turned out to be, classics, like, Half-Life. The idea of a silent protagonist not being some macho action hero badass just became one of the greatest PC games of all time. And you had Halo with its vast environments and varied alien species and combat mechanics, and it has become a household name. I remember a time before we had Half-Life and Halo, and so they changed the landscape, and they also changed it for the better because they brought ideas and innovations that other people were like, okay, we see what they can do with it, let's see what we can do with it. So So it's kind of mind-boggling now how much that creative mindset has been replaced by the idea of just selling snake oil. You know, it's not a gaming industry. It's basically a giant con. And you know, we still get the occasionally good games, but sometimes they're not from the bigger studios. I mean, I still remember when Blizzard Entertainment was, you know, one of, if not the best game developers for, you know, real-time strategy and action-adventure games. You know, I grew up with StarCraft and Diablo and Warcraft. You know, I love those games. And so seeing what's happened with Blizzard and, you know, Activision and EA over the years, it's mind-boggling to see how little they just don't care anymore about the quality of their product. They're just caring about how much money we can make before people realize what we're selling them is garbage. And I mean, probably one of the greatest, most infamous examples of this is, you know, Fallout 76 from Bethesda. You know, we had, you know, Fallout 1 and 2 were landmark titles that, you know, were bold and innovative and full of incredible ideas that made us want to know more about the world that the games were set in. And, you know, we got Fallout 3, which, you know, to be fair, was not perfect, but it was an interesting step in a new direction. And it did give us Fallout New Vegas, which is one of the best entries in the Fallout series, bar none. And then you got Fallout 4, which had certain innovations and things that were interesting, but it was not up to the same standards as previous entries. And then you got a game where they were promising all of these fantastical things and all these incredible gifts, and, you know, if you pre-order now, you get this and that. And then on day one, it was just a complete piece of crap. Like, the game barely ran. And everything that they promised turned out to be, you know, of poor quality, or just they stopped caring. I mean, it's mind-blowing to think that a company that, you know, we turn to for immersive, engaging stories that with gameplay that made you feel powerful and confident, was replaced by something where you could barely interact with the world without the game literally crapping out. And then on top of that, you had all the exploits and the bugs and the glitches, and it's like, I mean, the story behind the game is just, it's mind-blowing. You know, the fact that they used a lower grade team instead of their A team. You know, the trying to incorporate an older game engine into a always online, you know, system that wasn't designed for, and lots of glitches that were, and problems that were prevalent, mastery of the English language here, in Fallout 4 were then translated over to, did I say translated? I meant transported over to Fallout 76 with no changes. It's just like they took one pile of garbage that was in the kitchen, and they just moved it to the garage. So the pile of garbage is still there, but it's just in a different part of the house. And, it's still smelly and covered in flies, and nothing's improved. Which then brings me to what's happened with Cyberpunk 2077, which, needs no introduction. I remember when I first heard about this game many years ago, and I still remember that first trailer they showed of the slow motion of the cops shooting at the cybernetically enhanced woman who had, I think, was actually killed 2 people, and it was showing the slow motion path of the bullet as it broke across her skin, and then the title showed up, and they were showing some more scenes, and then they were saying, it'll be done when it's done. And these were the same people who were making The Witcher, CD Projekt Red. So it seemed to me like these were people who gave a damn about what they were trying to make. Like they started with a concept and they built on it and they tried it out and they took feedback from their tryouts and they improved on the concept, and then they tried it out again and they got more feedback, and the process kept going and going and going. That's why we kept getting all those release day delays when they kept telling us, we need to move it back, we need to do more playtesting, we need to work through the bugs, we need to work through all of the little details to get it just right, because we want to give you the best experience possible. We want to give you our A game. We want to give you this incredible experience. We don't want you just to play our game. We want you to live our game. We want you to feel like this isn't just a collection of zeros and ones and lights and shadows and effects. This is a living, breathing world full of people. Like this could be a place in the real world. Like, it's 2021, and so who knows, 2077 we might have this kind of stuff in our lives. Probably not. I mean, what do you think? Do you think it'd be more like late 21st century, early 22nd would be starting to get cybernetic enhancements? I doubt I'll live that long, but, it'd be kind of cool to see, people don't have to worry about achy legs anymore. They just get, robotic prosthetics. And the next thing you know, everyone becomes an Olympic sprinter. Won't Usain Bolt have some competition? Anyway, so we kept getting the pushback on the dates for the release, and then we started getting hyped up with pre-orders, and we had that preview of the gameplay, and it was just mind-blowing. You had all of these NPCs, following these routines, these crowds that looked so believable. Like the world just looked. It looked. It wasn't just beautiful, it looked like a lived-in world. This wasn't just a world designed solely for this game. It's like the game was focused on like a certain point in this city's history. So we're seeing the events unfold through this game. So this is a real place that we're watching unfold in front of us. And then it finally came out, and it was just garbage. Like, you had all of these glitches and errors and problems, and it just feels like all that CD Projekt Red was doing for this was just blowing smoke up our asses. Like, they lied to us. They said they were working on this constantly, fine-tuning it, trying to get every single problem solved before bringing this finished product out to us. And it just seems like they were all just sitting around, blowing spit bubbles. Like, what the hell were you guys doing? You guys made The Witcher 3, probably one of the most immersive fantasy RPGs in history. Like, this game was an incredible testament to, your hard work, your ingenuity, your resourcefulness, your ability to solve all these problems that had come before in The Witcher 2, Assassins of Kings. And it feels like where were those people? Where were the people who made Witcher 3 when this was being made? Because it feels like they all, what, they all went off for like a recovery session. They all went to the Bahamas and they're just chilling out on a beach with margaritas while you had the interns working on this. It's mind-blowing. And the fact that you had so many people pre-ordering this game. They put so much faith in this game. They were willing to spend money before they saw anything, from official reviewers. And then, of course, you get the official review scores, and some of them just seem so horribly biased. Giving this game such high scores when it's clear there is a lot that's wrong with the game. That's why, I prefer reviewers like the Angry Joe Show, because he's honest. He's blunt. He gets to the point, and he's not afraid of telling you, ladies and gentlemen, this is a piece of shit. Now, if you allow me, I will explain why. And then he goes into detail, and he just literally skins the game alive. And it hurts, but he hurts us because he cares about us. The same thing with his review of Aliens Colonial Marines. You remember when we had that preview trailer come out and we thought, oh my god, this is incredible. The detail of the environments, the behavior of the aliens. You had this sense that this felt like an actual continuation of Aliens that wasn't, Alien 3. I mean, don't get me wrong, I loved Alien 3. I thought it was a great movie. I thought it was a great way to end the saga of the Alien story. But Aliens Colonial Marines, in concept, seemed like an interesting way, I guess, a story branch to show, what happened after the events at Hadley's Hope. What was the fallout from this catastrophe? And then we got the final product, and it was just crap. It's mind-boggling. I've said that a few times, mind-boggling. But that with all this going on, you've got all of these battle royale games, these pay-to-win games, the loot box controversy or controversy, I'm trying to figure out which way to pronounce it. But you have that whole problem with Europe basically saying, if you have loot boxes in your game, that's gambling and that's against the law. And you have all these games that are just copy pasting data from previous games and then just giving it a new slap of paint and calling it a brand new product. And you've got stories of these game companies just working their employees just to the brink of exhaustion. the false promises, the crunch deadlines, it almost makes you just not really want to play games anymore, because just seeing where things have gone, it's so sad, because I remember a time when you had good games you had made by people who cared about what they were making. I mean, don't get me wrong, there wasn't like some great golden age of gaming where every single title was a classic. There were duds. There were games where you were just like, okay, were these people all, stoned or suffering from catastrophic head injuries when they were making this game, or what? But there was a sense that the people making the really good games really cared about what they were making and what they wanted to bring to the audience. And it's so sad to see how things have declined over the years. With all the studios getting bought up by various companies, EA gobbling up all of these game designers, taking their hard work and then just ruining it. I mean, one example I can think of is the Dungeon Keeper series. There was a mobile version of the Dungeon Keeper game, which was universally panned as being a complete betrayal of the core concepts of the Dungeon Keeper series, and the things that made it fun, because it was a pay-to-win game. You had all these timers and paywalls, and it just drew out the experience. And of course, that's the objective, to make you break and pay them money to speed the whole damn thing up. So I hope people learn from Cyberpunk 2077, just to don't believe everything you hear in the press. Don't take everything that a company spokesperson says at face value. And don't get me wrong, Keanu Reeves is a great actor, but the fact that that so many people would want this game simply because of him, I mean, like I said, great actor, but you shouldn't base your decision making on one thing. You shouldn't base it on whether or not Keanu Reeves is in it, because you're bound to be disappointed. You need to take a look at the data. You need to take a look at the information. You need to look at multiple sources. One of the biggest clues to the idea that the game wasn't going to be good was the fact that they weren't, CD Projekt Red wasn't allowing reviewers to use the footage from their own playthroughs, because, as you know, certain companies send out preview copies to various game publishers, who will then play the game, and they will make reviews based on what they've experienced. So the fact that the CD Projekt Red wasn't allowing them to show their footage and show what they experienced, that was a big clue. The fact that they didn't want anyone to see what they saw before release, before all the pre-orders got filled, seriously, that's a humongous clue. Like, if you can't show the footage to people so they can make up their own minds about what they are going to buy, that's alarm bells going off right there, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, hell, Warcraft 3 Reforged. Oh yeah, that was brutal. And I grew up with Warcraft 3. I'm one of those people who was like genuinely shocked at the plot twist at the end of the Human campaign. For those of you who, still haven't played the game, I won't spoil anything. Honestly, I don't need to, because there's probably videos about it going back all the way to 10 years. So if you don't know what's going on, you are really behind the times. Anyway, so that's why, I'm just, it's frustrating and saddening to see, how many games coming out just have this hollowness to them, because the people making them, I'm sure there are people who care about what they're making, but it seems like they are in a minority, because they're up against, their executives, you're up against, company spokespeople, you're up against so many factors that are just ramping up the pressure to get something out the door, even if it's not 100% ready. And selling people false promises and just, giving them false hopes. And then, of course, everyone complains, and it's usually the game designers who get the brunt of the blame. Because, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Well, we would have, but we were up against the clock, and most of us hadn't slept in at least 2 days. So we apologize for not being on our A game, but we were literally being worked to death. So, yeah. So that's my rambling. Just the fact that I'm disappointed in the modern games industry. I'm disappointed in the fact that there are so many games coming out that care more about profit than about principles. CD Projekt Red were saying, we'll get it out when it's done. And I feel like, you lied. You said it would be out when it's done. It's not done. So, how are we ever going to trust you again? I mean, the fact that they hyped the game up so much and it came out in such a broken state. I mean, for all of their accomplishments, this massive failure, it'll destroy any goodwill they have. I mean, they promised the moon and the stars, and it blew up on the launch pad. So, yeah. So, that's my rambling. That's my thoughts on the whole damn thing. So, oh dear. The time is now 12:08 on the 23rd of May, 2021. My name again is Steven Jackson. If you have anything you'd like to share with me, feel free to share in the comments. If you've watched all the way to the end of this video, thank you for putting up with my rambling. I appreciate it. It's nice to just get my thoughts out there and see who agrees, who doesn't, alternative opinions, maybe some cool things to look at. So, yeah. Well, okay, time now is 12:09, so I'm going to stop now. Thank you all for watching. Peace.